Keep your hand upon us as individuals and collectively. In the name of Jesus we ask, amen.
Amen. Ms. Robinson?
Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While you're standing, there were several people who passed during the time that we last met, but one of our neighbors across the street, Mr. Patel, died suddenly, and it was a shock to all of us. Many of you remember Mr. Patel for his services at the hotel, but all of you remember him during the time of the police shooting. He was very involved in that and suffered a lot of trauma, and as I appreciated, he died suddenly a couple of 3 weeks ago. So in his memory, we're sending to him a certificate of appreciation and in memorial from the mayor's office, but I'd like to offer and let the record show that we're pausing for a moment of silence in his memory, in memory of Mr. Patel. Thank you, and you may be seated. We welcome you to the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Alderpersons of the City of Bastrop. Thank each of you for coming, and thank those of you who are watching via the cable system. For many of you who don't know, we do it live during the time of the council meeting, and it's posted on the internet, and it's amazing the number of people who watch our council meetings. People from all over the world watch it and they send comments, and we've been in meetings. We were in an economic development meeting interviewing some people when we were doing the interviews with the companies for the consultancy, and one of the guys said, well, we watch your council meeting and we know that you do this and do the other. I said, wow, you know, we thought we were just doing it for local people, but people refer to it. So this is our way of being sure that we reach out and keep our citizenry informed as to what we're doing. This is an open meeting. It's a public meeting. We have it second Thursday of every month. But for those folks who choose not to, this is another vehicle that we can use to get the message to them. Many of you probably remember previously we used KTRY for that vehicle, and we've been able to move up to another level now, and now we're using Channel 7 on Suddenlink's cable system. Okay, in order to go into business, we need to determine if we have a quorum. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Robinson?
Present.
Ms. Olive?
Present.
Mr. Gordon?
Present.
Mr. Lenore?
Present.
Mr. Hamlin?
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Let the record show that a quorum is present, and we're in order to proceed with the business of the Mayor and Board of Alderpersons of the City of Bastrop. Item number 4 is the announcement spot that I have initiated here to just make some general announcements. In addition to making my whirlwind trip to Baton Rouge, I just got back a few minutes ago. I've also been in Washington since D.C. since Sunday. Flew up on Sunday and had a series of meetings with our total congressional delegation. They send their regards to you and offer encouragement to you as a Board of Alderpersons and to this community. And as we toil to adjust and carry on the business of the community. Since we last met, we've had a major closure of another business in our community that impacts our quality of life. Pilgrim's Pride announced a couple of weeks ago that they were going to close, and the numbers tossed around as 1,300 to 2,100 folks, not only in Morehouse Parish, but Union Parish and other surrounding parishes, as well as South Arkansas, that will be impacted by it. I've been involved in meetings with the Union Parish community, as well as with the Governor General and Superintendent Moray, as well as the Mayor of Farmerville, Mayor Bachman, as they've been adjusting and trying to figure out which way to go as they proceed in dealing with this event. Since I've been gone, I've been keeping up with the local news via the internet, and first thing I saw that there was a potential sale of the business, and somebody had offered $20 million, and the state was going to kick in another $20 million. And former Representative Charlie McDonald called me today and told me that another offer was being made, as the state was going to put in $40 million, and on and on and on. The difference in the Pilgrim's Pride situation and the IP situation is Pilgrim's Pride is willing to sell. They're willing to sell that facility. But one would wonder if a sale of the business is going to allow them to operate. Supposedly, the reason that they sold is because the market for chickens is saturated and the price is down. I guess the price that they want for chickens is down. But the way that folks eat chickens, I just don't see chickens being, I don't see that. Somebody playing some games, I believe.
I think so,
From
too.
Washington, D.C. to Baton Rouge, everywhere I went, I saw chickens on the menu. You know, so chickens are being sold and folks are eating chickens. So the demand is great, whether it's Italian food, Chinese food, or soul food, or corner food. You know, we identify places, we identify directions in Bastrop by saying, go to the chicken place on the corner and turn right, you know. But that's what they're saying, and supposedly they are desirous of selling, and that would be significant to us. Terry Matthews was called as well. He and I were invited to come to a meeting with the governor and Superintendent Murray. Terry, because of his position with the police jury. And as we were riding, I was talking about the impact on our community. Terry, as you know, is also assistant director or has a position with the Head Start. And he told me that 60% of the parents at Head Start are employed by Pilgrim's Pride. 60% of the parent in Head Start are employed by Pilgrim's Pride. Another difference in the Pilgrim's Pride employees and those from IP, and that's supposed to be about 500 folks in Morehouse Parish who worked for Pilgrim's Pride. 500 folks. Those 500 folks lived here, they spent their money here, they paid rent here and all the rest of that. And this is not to belittle the importance of IP, but a lot of IP employees lived in Arkansas, Union Parish, Ouachita Parish, East and West Carroll, Richland, all over the area. I think, Kay, we kind of figured that maybe 50%, 50 to 60%, maybe 50% or less of the IP employees lived in Bastrop. That's important. That 50% is important. But we you know, this is like a boxer, you know, left, backed up by a right. Those punches are hard and heavy. We had a leak with IP in our dam, but this is a major hole in the dam, and we're trying to do everything that we can to plug the hole, to create job opportunities, to maintain the quality of life. Many of you don't know, but the impact on IP to the city of Bastrop and school board and the sheriff's office and police jury is extremely traumatic. It can be as much as 20% of our budget. City of Bastrop's budget is somewhere around $10 million. And the closure of IP can amount to as much as 20%, $2 million out of the city of Bastrop's coffers. Think about it, if 20% of your money left in your households. But we're working hard, this Board of Alderpersons and this mayor and this staff, we're working hard to bridge that gap and to do everything we can to restore our economy. And one of the things that Mr. Hamlin strongly emphasized, and he was agreed with by most council people, we're going to do everything that we can not to have to terminate employees. Because if we have to do a RIF policy, RIF is reduction in force, if we have to do a reduction in force, that means that the services that we deliver are going to be diminished. We won't have as many people picking up paper, as many people fighting fires, police departments, doing administrative stuff. And we want to do everything that we can to prevent that from happening. With that in mind, we found out that there's going to be a major grant announcement on Monday when I met with the Department of Justice this past week. There'll be a new COPS grant that will be announced, which is going to allow us to hire police officers. And this grant cycle will pay for new salaries for police officers for 3 years, and just like most grants, it starts diminishing. We went through that before. It was a 5-year cycle in, but you know, right now what we need to do is take advantage of every opportunity. We're not going to be like Governor Jindal and turn down money because it's going to run out. We're going to accept everything we can because all we have is right now. All we have is right now, and that's what we're going to be responsible for.
Mayor Hawkins,
Ms. Robinson?
on the upside of this, if it makes any difference. Do you happen to know what the figure is that people who live in Morehouse Parish that drive to cross it and work at Georgia Pacific?
No, ma'am, I don't.
It's quite a bit. I'm not sure what it is. At one time I did know. And also the other thing that we need maybe to promote is that when we first moved here, people outside the parish complained about how it smelled, and they would like to live out of Monroe and drive back and forth to work there. So now maybe we can build a new subdivision and get people to come in and move here.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. There's a blessing in any event that happens. We're trying hard, and you're right, Ms. Robinson. There are several initiatives on housing. I met a guy as I was going to Baton Rouge who's a builder, and he asked, were we still interested in affordable housing, and we definitely are.
Yes.
So we will be working on that and promoting. I don't want this to sound like a gloom and doom, because I am extremely optimistic. If you think about it, Bastrop is not going to dry up and blow away. As long as you have needs for goods and services, as long as you need to buy something, you're going to need stores. Stores are going to need to buy products. Stores are going to need to have folks working there. And those folks who work there are going to need to spend money. So, you know, we can only shut down if we decide that we're going to shut down. And looking at the national news, where are you going to run?
That's right.
Where are you going that things supposedly are better? If you really think about it, there are people from other areas, folks who moved away from here years and years ago, who are coming back to Bastrop because it's easier to live in a community like ours than it is to live. I was in Toledo, Ohio a couple of weeks ago, and the foreclosure rate there is so high that they're starting to initiate some actions to prevent the banks from foreclosing on houses. We haven't had that situation here yet. So even though this is not how we want it to be, it's not as bad as what it could be. As I move on with the announcements, members who candidates, I think you got a letter from Ms. Olive announcing a forum, an event that she's having on the 17th. She might want to speak.
No, it's not a forum, it's the summit.
You might want to speak to that.
I'd like to take this as an opportunity to extend an invitation to all the listeners about a summit on the 17th of March at the Visitor Center to afford all of the candidates an opportunity to talk with the general public, state your mission and your goal, and we will have a short presentation to enlist the ideas from the general public and what you deem is important in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the community. So often as candidates, we have a one-way channel of communication where we are telling the candidates what our intentions are, but I think it's equally as important to enlist the ideas from other people. And thank you for making that point, Mayor Hawkins.
Yes.
Truly so. And as we segue, for candidates who are interested, candidates who are going to be seeking the position of all the persons in the city of Bastrop, there will be, we call them forums. It's a question and answer session, an opportunity to meet for people to meet you and hear you. On the 24th of March, which is a Tuesday, a couple of weeks from now, in this room, there will be a public forum, and we will use our TV capacity to let you be heard. And our format is we have a moderator, and there are questions that are submitted by the public or submitted by individuals in the audience, and those questions are asked to every person. No question can be asked to any one person, but those questions will be asked, and you'll be given an opportunity to answer them and tell about yourself. There'll be a time limit, and there's no debate. It's just an opportunity for you to speak on issues that people feel are important. That forum and that opportunity will be on the 24th of March here in this courtroom. On the 31st of March, there will be an opportunity for the mayoral candidates to do the same thing. These two forums will be at 6:30 in this room. The 24th is for the candidates for city council, board of alderpersons. The 31st is for the mayoral candidates. Again, there will be a moderator who will have collected questions from the public. Anybody who wants to submit a question can submit it. They will be consolidated, and they will be asked of each individual. Each individual will be given, what we usually do, about 2 minutes each. I can't remember, 2 minutes to answer, something like that. And then we'll move on. But this is an opportunity for the public to hear and see you and for you to express yourself.
Excuse me,
Okay.
excuse
Mayor.
me.
Ms. Olive?
Thank you. Who is the moderator and who is organizing each forum?
This is done under the auspices of the City of Bastrop, and just as we did when we did the police jury, I think you moderated for the police jury, so Mr. Matthews, who's police jury, is going to be the moderator for both of those. Mr. Hammer?
Tuesday the 17th. What time is that at the visitor center?
Ms. Olive?
Excuse me? 6:30.
6:30? Oh, all of them at 6:30.
Right, the two here in the City Council chambers are 6:30, Ms. Olive is saying hers is 6:30 as well.
Okay, thank you.
The election date, for folks who don't know it, is April the 4th. April the 4th. So encourage those folks who support you to go out and vote, and for the folks who will be responsible for making decisions and doing operations of the City of Bastrop for the next 4 years. From these announcements, let me segue, because we have candidates who are in the room tonight. I took the liberty to invite individuals who have offered themselves, and that's what you're doing. You're offering yourselves to public service. And that's one of the highest honors and one of the highest gifts that a person can give. To give yourself for a 4-year term, contracting yourself for a 4-year term to the service of the folks in your district. And I really admire and applaud you for doing that. Let me ask, as I call your name, if you'll come up and stand over here and across here so folks can get we're not going to, this is not speech time and all that kind of stuff, but we're just having folks to come in so you can see them. And some of us are on the podium, and we'll step down as your names are called. Starting with District A for the Board of Alderpersons, Mr. Marvin Moore, if you're present, would you come up? Mr. Hubert Chaffo. Which is the best camera shot for them, Mr. Floyd? Where you want them?
Right there.
Right,
At the podium.
right in that podium area? Okay. Ms. Boo Robinson? Okay. These are the 3 individuals. Ms. Robinson is the incumbent, Mr. Chappell and Mr. Moore are all seeking the position. So we want to give them some face time, and folks can see them, so when they see them around, they'll know who they are. I want to thank all 3 of you individuals for making yourselves available. Give them a round of applause. Thank you all very much. In District B, I'm sorry, Mr. Charles Bradford, Mr. Larry Prather, and Mr. Obie Johnson. These are the 3 individuals who have offered themselves in that district. That's District B. That's the district that was previously represented by Ms. Betty Olive. These are the gentlemen who are running. Give them a round of applause as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for offering yourselves. We appreciate it. In District C, Mr. Sonny Nason. Is he present? Okay.
It's coming.
And Mr. Eddie Gordon. Mr. Gordon is the incumbent, and Mr. Nason is offering himself in that position as well. We appreciate both of you guys for offering yourselves in that position. Thank you very much. In District D, the incumbent there is Mr. Willard Lenoir, Mr. Henry Cotton, and Mr. Roy Armstrong. Is he present?
Oh, yeah, he's back there, Mayor.
These 3 gentlemen have offered themselves as well. Thank you very much. In District, y'all can go.
Kai want to talk.
They trying to take more than FaceTime, aren't they?
Kai want to say something.
No, I ain't gonna, no. They got to pay for that. In District E, the 2 candidates who are seeking that position, Mr. Hamlin, who has long served in that district, is not seeking re-election. And the 2 people who are seeking to serve in that position, Mr. Howard Locke. I'm calling the way they got it wrote on here now. Wait till you get elected to start telling us how to do things. And Ms. Frankie Conway. Give her a round of applause. Thank you very much for offering yourself to serve. We appreciate it. Thank you. In the mayor's position, Ms. Betty Olive. Ms. Betty Olive currently serves as representative in District B on the Bastrop Board of Aldermen, Alderpersons. Mr. Troy Downs, is Mr. Downs present? And I'm seeking re-election. Let's give these people a round of applause as well. Thank both of you for offering yourselves in the position. Ladies and gentlemen, these individuals are all worthy individuals. They are all worthy individuals. They are citizens of the city of Bastrop, and they want to serve you. So as they come around and make contact with you, give them the respect that they deserve. Listen to them, and then make a choice. If you don't vote, you're making a choice. You're making a choice for somebody else to have control, to make the decisions for your government. And by expressing yourself, you will have spoken, and then the numbers will dictate what happens. Again, thank all of you for offering yourselves. Okay, any other announcements, staff, that I've missed? Anything else I need to say on that area?
Mayor Hawkins, let me address District B that I currently represent.
Ms. Olive?
I would like to say it has been an honor for me to represent District B for the last 2 terms. And I made a choice based on an in-depth feeling that I had to offer myself in the mayor's race. I want to thank the District B citizens for allowing me to serve them. I love the district as I love this community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Olive. Okay, as we move on to the business of this board, item number 5 is to approve the previous minutes of our Alderpersons meeting. You've had a chance to peruse those minutes. That was a meeting held on February 12th. What's your pleasure?
Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Lenore makes the motion.
I second.
Ms. Robinson seconds his motion. Is there any discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, who oppose may say no. The ayes have it. Item number 6 is the Finance Committee report. Mr. Hamlin.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 09-1263, bills and claims for the month of February.
Mr. Hamlin makes a motion.
I second.
Ms. Olive seconds his motion. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor Hawkins,
Mr. Gordon.
that should have been resolution, according to my paperwork, 1269.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just a correction on that number.
okay,
1269?
1269.
okay.
Must have worn the wrong glasses today.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Mr. Hamlin, I understand.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that document properly numbered? It is, okay. The motion would be, is reflected as being order number 09-1269 resolution. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no. The ayes have it. Ms. Sandra Lawson is present, I believe, from Well Springs, and we asked her to come and talk to her for just, are you Ms. Sandra Lawson?
No.
I didn't think so.
No,
I
sir.
met Sandra Lawson a
No,
couple weeks
sir.
ago in my office, and I
No,
said, she changed.
I'm filling in for her tonight.
Okay,
She
and
was
who are
unable
you?
to be here. My name is Casey Solomon. I'm a counselor at the Wellspring here in Bastrop.
Okay, Ms.
And,
Solomon?
I'm gonna be taking Sandra's place at the
Okay.
last minute.
Okay, and how do you spell your first name?
K-A-C-E-Y.
I knew it wasn't going to be C-A-S-E-Y. So let the record show the proper spelling. And last
Last
name?
name Solomon, S-O-L-O-M-O-N.
And you're representing Well Springs. Thank you, ma'am. You may speak.
You may know us better by our old name. We were the YWCA. Several years ago, we changed to the Wellspring. We are located here in Bastrop. We just recently moved over on East Hickory. And I am here tonight. I would like to thank you for the opportunity that you have given me to invite everyone to an upcoming community forum that we will be having about domestic violence in Morehouse Parish. The forum will be held this coming up Tuesday, March the 17th. We are having it at the Snyder Museum. It will be from 6 to 8 p.m. We are going to talk about domestic violence in the community and what can be done to address it. The forum is a project of the SAFER Task Force. SAFER stands for Stopping Abusive Family Environments Rural Services. This is a grant-funded project that seeks to reduce the impact of domestic and dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking in 5 rural Northeast Louisiana parishes, of which Morehouse is one of them. The Morehouse Parish Task Force members includes the Bastrop City Police Department, the 4th Judicial District Court, the DA's office, the Office of Community Services, the Offices of Family Support, and the Wellspring as well in that. I have brought some flyers. I would love for you to distribute them among your workplaces. I'll leave them on the table up here, also at your churches, wherever you think there might be an interest or a need. And if you have any questions, our Monroe and Bastrop numbers are on the flyers, and we would love for you to contact us, and we would love to see you there. That's coming up Tuesday.
Okay, now, I think I remember, you were on the corner of Harrington and North Washington.
Yes, sir.
And now you're in the building that was previously occupied by Dr. Battle.
That's
just
right.
about across from First Methodist Church.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just a block or two this way.
Sure.
That's right.
Used to be the Catfish Restaurant a long time ago. You remember that?
I think so. I think it was a daycare at one time as well. So it's been a lot of places. We hope to stay there for a while. So
Okay.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for doing what you do. Now, you're going to be dealing with domestic violence.
Yes, sir. In the forum, you mean?
Your services at that facility.
Oh, yes. We deal with domestic violence, sexual assault, any forms of family violence. I'm the counselor there. We also have a transitional housing program. Someone runs that. And we have an outreach coordinator as well.
If somebody is having situations, can they remain anonymous, or how do you keep them from, how does?
Very confidential. We are a locked facility. You don't get in without us seeing who you are, where you are. Our services are very private, very confidential. Phone calls can be anonymous. If you want to just find out some information, you think you know someone who's going through that and you want to ask some questions or kind of get some information on that, you're welcome to call us. We can go over some signs and symptoms of stalking, sexual abuse, sexual violence, family violence, anything that you have any questions about. If you think it would even be relevant, we would be happy to discuss it with you.
That's a hot topic now with the Chris Brown situation.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
very big deal. We have a lot of conferences coming up on just studies on that whole situation, so it's made it very public.
If teenagers are involved, as I appreciate it, a lot of teenagers are involved in physical abuse. It used to be boys attacking girls, but girls beating up the boyfriends. You handle that kind of thing as well?
They do, we do. We'll have, I believe, I think coming up soon.
I'm serious about that.
He is.
What about why?
We do, we do have calls from men, so it does happen, yes.
Okay.
We should have someone, I think, scheduled within this upcoming year to do some talks at the local high schools and
Okay.
junior highs regarding teen dating violence
So-
through this same grant.
So if a church wanted to conduct a program, they can contact your office, and you have
Yes,
people who would
yes.
go out and meet with them?
Any businesses that we have an outreach person, and she does that. She talks locally with different organizations, clubs, schools. She will go anywhere, and if you have a need for us to show up, we will be there.
Okay. Thank you
Mayor
very much.
Hawkins,
Ms. Robinson.
Casey,
Yes, ma'am.
when you have a lady or man that needs housing, do you do it here in Morehouse, or do you take them somewhere else where they're more secure?
Yes, ma'am. I believe we have 8 apartments located
Okay.
here within the parish, and we will do the intake here, and we try to keep those as confidential, of course, as possible.
Well, I've worked with abused women before I moved here, and since I've been here, and it's tragic that we have to have this, but I thank y'all for being here and for what you do, because I've worked with Wellspring before. And do you still take volunteers?
Yes, ma'am, we would love any type of help that we can get, that would be great.
So if there's any women out here that have been involved in it and have ceased their problems, and they go through it and they know what to look for and how to look for it. I was not abused.
Right, right.
But I would encourage anybody to come and volunteer because it is well worth the time spent.
It's very rewarding, it can be. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for your
Let
presence.
me
Thank
ask
you.
a question.
Ms. Olive,
Are you at liberty to disclose your level of funding, and are you a participant in the continuum of care out of Monroe?
Oh, that's a question I would not know the answer to. I know that we are federally funded through the Department of Justice. We have grant funding through the Office of Violence Against Women. We also have grant funding through the Office of Women's Policy through Washington. So it's not a state level, it is a federal level, but I'm not sure of the dollar amount.
Okay, thank you.
thank you again.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about the economy and Pilgrim's Pride, and Ms. Kay King is here tonight to give us a briefing on the economic development in Morehouse Parish, and we'll proceed from there.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've got a little bit of a cold tonight, so I'll try to be brief. We do, one of the questions that most people ask me and most people are most concerned about is, do you have any prospects? And I can't always come up here and tell a lot of details about it, but I want to tell you that we do have a prospect for Bastrop that is a small company that would like to relocate. I'm not a real estate agent, so to speak. I did meet with a realtor, showed the building last week. I think this has come along very positive. It would create somewhere between 24 and 36 relatively low-skilled jobs for the community. And getting back to what you were saying earlier, Mayor Hawkins, about, and I think when we lost the mill, that we do have 2 other paper mills in the area. But looking at the people that have been displaced by the loss of the chicken processing jobs, that I'm very much concerned with that, and I hope that we can bring this company in here. We're doing everything we can. You know, sometimes I come here and it's like month after month, but sometimes it takes a little while to get things to solidify. And and as we know, that the future is probably higher tech jobs. So I'm always optimistic when we can get some lower skilled jobs too. Everybody that wants a job should be able to have one. So I'm also getting a lot of information about stimulus money, and I did have Mr. Broussard from USDA drop by my office one day, and from a couple of other channels too, from what I understand about this, that a lot of the stimulus money is going to be filtering down into existing agencies. So we just need to stay alert about what kind of funding opportunities are going to be available through those, and I know that we have some projects on the radar that could take advantage of the stimulus money. I know that the city's had some projects that you're working. Then I wanted to say too that I have talked with Ron Alexander and David Bitter's office on several occasions this month. They're very committed to helping us do something in this community, and that one of the things that I've continued to ask for, and we need to be diligent on, it sounds somewhat minor, is that we need to continue to ask for an extension of our Renewal community benefits, because this is something that's very important to bringing jobs into the community. And Senator Vitter was particularly interested, and I know Mary Landry, when she came, we talked with her about that, and they were all very interested. We need to just be diligent at continuing to pursue that extension. It's very important for the development of the community. And I'm going to move on down. I think we want to talk about the Timerica that's coming. I bring this because I know, sometimes visual aids are good, but this is a copy of a study that we did in 2002. this strategic plan, which is something that's going to be similar to what Time America. Time America is the company that was selected by a group of local business people and that were put on a committee that will be coming in to do a new study of Bastrop and do a redevelopment plan for Bastrop. This company, I think everyone that was involved in it, that were very impressed with the team of professionals that they have put together, that this will be a much more comprehensive. I expect that this report will be much thicker than this. And I know that many times people don't understand that, when you say, well, you're going to get a book, and a lot of times people think you take these books and you put them on a shelf and they collect dust. But I know in the plan that was done in 2002, that there were many aspects of this plan that we implemented, that many organizations, different organizations in this community implemented. I know the city had been very diligent about some of the first impressions that this group pointed out, and diligent about cleaning up, demolishing buildings, making that first impression count, and just many aspects of this plan were put into action, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to continue to put this plan. We're going to have some follow-up, so that this study and this redevelopment plan is going to be much more comprehensive in light of our recent loss. We have a lot more support on this, and I think it's going to be very beneficial. The community is going to get a chance to communicate. And I know on our summit that we're having next Tuesday night, we're going to kind of throw out some food for thought, and get people's minds to thinking, and kind of prepare the people for this group that's going to be coming in and doing this great service to our community. I would like to say that websites and things are very important. We and I know that, getting back to you're discussing that some of the proposals that we received had looked at, and they had really scrutinized our website. They had looked at the council meetings, and the technology that we present makes that first impression on the people that are looking at our community. And I'd like to take a moment just to commend the city's efforts in the great strides that you've made since I've taken this job. And I know that much of this has taken place because of the talent, and he's going to get embarrassed, but Mr. Ernest Floyd, he brings a lot of technology abilities to the city, and I think that he has really added a lot. I have made a commitment through my board of directors over the next month that we're going to be working on our website. We started this Tuesday. I'm going to be dedicating a day a week to getting some things brought up to date. It's a big job keeping websites up because you got a lot of pages in there, but it is important that they say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Sure. Well, our that technology presence is often the first impression, and it's only a click away from not ever being able to make that second impression.
Sometimes it's the only impression. If you don't make an impression of that website, they're not coming back.
And more and more site locators are going through a screening process, and they may be down to step 4 or 5 before you ever know they're looking at you.
Sure.
So we're going to be continuing to work on that, continuing to link in to some of the services that the city's providing. And like I said, I commend you on that, on the great progress that the city's made over the past couple of years. Okay. I think I want to move on into, we got a couple of other items here that you might want to ask me.
I need you to stay up for...
And maybe I should have asked if anybody had any
I'm sorry?
questions. Maybe I should have asked if anyone had any questions for me.
Let's take care of these items here, and the questions can be kind of comprehensive and holistic because they might involve what we're about to do. So while you're there, I want to move to item number 9, which is authorization to sign an agreement with SMI. And while you're there, and I don't know if Mr. Lawrence needs to join you at the podium, this agreement with SMI is about what?
This is a waiver for more landlord's lien in preparation for SMI to do some refinancing and some things that involve their equipment and furniture, which is
Let's
not.
briefly reacquaint our audience about SMI. SMI, their real name is what, Southern Magic Inc.?
Well, I think they
Used to
dropped
be.
that. It
Okay.
used to be, and
Yeah.
and they're.
Anyway, this is a company that Kay was able to establish contact with that was in South Louisiana, South Central Louisiana in the Franklin area. We flew down to, using local pilot, we flew down to see the facility. I think they came here during one of the storms, and they discovered Bastrop and saw the potential that it has as far as a labor force, a trained labor force in welding. They realized that folks in this area had that capacity, and they needed welders to do their business. Now, they have a full-fledged, full-blown business in southeast Louisiana, South Central Louisiana, but because they're so vulnerable to storms, when Katrina, Rita, Ike, Gustav comes, when those kind of storms come through, they have to shut down. They lose the capacity to produce. And they were looking for a place high and dry that had facilities in place and that had a workforce that was in place. And by divine intervention, we just happened to match. Through the efforts of Kay and the rest of us, we started talking to them, and they have moved into Bastrop. What, they've been here about 2 or 3 years now?
Well, we started this project at the end of 2005. It was
Okay.
after Katrina, so the project actually began with the building and all in the first quarter of
Okay.
'06.
So we were able to take a building that was in our industrial park, help them meander the stream of being able to acquire that building and start hiring people. In fact, the technical college put on a whole new welding program to be able to accommodate, and people can't hardly get through the welding program before they get hired and taken up by the by that employer. So what's happening is they're getting ready to expand. That's bottom line.
Well, we had worked on expansions, and of course, they are very heavily involved in the oil and gas industry. So, as many people understand that the oil and gas industry hit a little blip when the oil prices fell, so they increased so dramatically, and then they fell so dramatically. So we're still working on that, and they are committed to expanding this facility here.
But they need this waiver to do what?
This waiver will be really structured in with all of their company.
Okay,
It's, like I said, it involves their equipment.
okay.
I'm not sure exactly what they're doing with all of the
But now
money.
what are we waiving?
What you're waiving, they're receiving some financing, from what I understand, through Biz Capital,
Okay.
as well as the USDA. And those entities are willing to provide that financing, provided that the city of Bastrop is willing to take a second position in terms of the security interest that we hold on certain equipment that's on the premises.
We're not removing ourselves, we're just repositioning ourselves.
That's right.
And that's, this is a financial thing, we're not giving up anything, we're not giving away anything, but we're allowing them better capacity to be able to get secure financing.
And it's in recognition of the fact that SMI has thus far had a very good track record of cooperating through, I think, LED and the other things that we've done. In other words, we're getting a good return from them being here. So it's a request that's worth honoring at this point.
And the return that we're getting from them being here is jobs in our community.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's what it is. This is a kind of technical thing. Mr. Lawrence, you approve of us doing this?
Yes, sir. We've already done a review. We made a one-word recommendation for an addition, just one word. And I think that that's going to be honored, and with that, I would recommend it.
Okay, so I need you to give me authorization to sign that agreement with SMI.
I make that motion, Mayor.
Mr. Hamlin makes the motion.
I second.
It's jointly seconded by Mr. Gordon and Ms. Robinson. Is there any other discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Thank you very much. If you'll stay right there. Ms. Kay King mentioned Thai America. When International Paper Company closed, and we got attention, we got attention during the 2 weeks following the definite closure of IP, we had first Secretary Moray of Louisiana Economic Development here. We had Senator David Vitter here. We had Governor Barragendo here. We had Senator Mary Landrieu here. We had state legislators coming in to see about us and to give us assistance and to try to help us through the issue. Now, that was nothing that could be done about closing IP. IP, and many of you know this, IP has been threatening this, or this has been the position that they've taken for many, many years. I can recall back in 2001, I was on one of my quarterly trips to Washington, and that was 2005, when they were talking about the restructuring back then, when they restructured the portfolio. I called Rob Aben, who was then, if he wasn't head of IP, he was a significant player in it, and we started asking them, if you're going to talk about closing it, that's when we were on the short list. They were talking about closing Pine Bluff, Pineville, Bastrop, and several mills. And I asked them then if they were going to close it, would they consider selling it to somebody else? And the answer at that time was no. No, we're not going to sell because we don't want to sell to somebody who's going to compete and make paper. And we were imploring them to change that position. As you know, after 2005, they decided to go in the pulp business, and that gave them some stability for the next 3 or 4 years. But as you know as well, they eventually decided to close the facility. And having been mayor, anything bad happens, the mayor gets blamed for it. That goes with territory. I don't feel bad about that. At the same time, we deal with what we have to deal with. There's nothing that anybody in the city of Bastrop could do to keep them open. There's nothing that anybody in the state of Louisiana could do to keep them open, because everybody was willing to do what they could. They closed, and that's a fact. And where we are now is we need to move on to the next phase of the life of this community. Now, International Paper Company has large land holdings there. Many of you, some of you in the audience looking out here, y'all not old enough, but you can't. In 1975, 1980, they closed the old mill. And that land is still there, vacant, not being used, most valuable land in the city of Bastrop, I think, with the exception of a reclaimed facility out there. They just tore down the red barn buildings in the last 5 to 6 years. It stayed out there from 75, 80 until now. And what I'm concerned about is, first, the potential of the land. That land, the single service building out on the airport road, busted break, all the piping and all the stuff that's across the street over at the new mill. That mill is closed, but we have potential in the facilities to generate jobs. And our efforts have been to try to get IP to make the facilities that they have available, to get those facilities so that they can be made available to somebody else who wants to come in to do it. Now, IP is not coming back. Bastrop is not a mill town anymore. But we have potential. We have outstanding folks like you, like folks who are watching us, who live in this community, who can do all kinds of stuff. We got buildings and equipment and facilities and rail and warehousing and pump stations and all kind of stuff that can be used. But where do we want to go in the future? What is our best fit? What identity does Bastrop take on? We impressed upon the governor and Stephen Moray, who's Economic Development Director, to help us plan for our future. They committed dollars, and they haven't given us specifically, but we know it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They committed hundreds of thousands of dollars for us to do a study. And that's what Kay was talking about when she talked about the SWOT analysis. SWOT is one of those acronyms for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's what folks do when they're trying to determine what they want to be and all that. We don't want a simple SWOT analysis. We want a plan involving you to determine what do we want to be as we grow into the future. What is our capacity? What do these assets lend themselves to? The state said, okay, we're going to give you X amount of dollars to hire a professional consultant to come in to help you plan, not them. We don't want somebody bringing their ideas in here. We need somebody to come and help us decide what we're going to be as we grow up, as we grow into the new future, the new 21st century. We sent out RFPs, requests for proposals, and we got, what, about 13 responses. We narrowed it down to 7 and then made it down to 3, something like that.
4, and then we...
4, yeah.
We ended
And
up,
narrowed it down to, yeah. And we went through this process. We've been going through this for a period of time. People saying, well, what are y'all doing? I keep giving that example. We like the duck paddling on water. You look at him on the surface and you think it ain't doing nothing, but underneath, if you look at his feet, he's paddling like hell. And that's what we do. So we have narrowed it down, the folks who applied after interviews and conversations and negotiations, to one company called Tire America. They come highly recommended. They come with a history of successes. They came and appeared before us, and we've talked to them, and we've been negotiating by phone and internet and all kinds of things since then. And they have been selected to do this job. You will be called on, members of this community will be called on, you will be interviewed and assessed to determine what you think and how you think we need to grow. The educational community is going to be challenged because we're going to have to stop giving lip service to education, reduce our dropouts, stop encouraging allowing our kids to take the easy courses, and start getting them to be better prepared, not just for college, but for trade and technical schools, so that they can provide a workforce so that businesses can grow within. We keep talking about people coming in, but we want businesses to grow from within as well as folks coming in here from the outside. Now, Mr. Lawrence, Kelsey Short from Louisiana Economic Development, Kay King from Morehouse Economic Development, the governor and all kinds of folks have been working at the contract between, and it will be between the city of Bastrop and this entity, Tire America, with money coming from the state of Louisiana, but we'll be handling the money, and some other sources. We have friends out there who contributing to this as well. But item number 10 speaks to approving a contract for services for economic redevelopment plan for the city of Bastrop and a cooperative endeavor agreement with the state of Louisiana related hereafter. And cooperative endeavor agreement is with the state of Louisiana, who's going to give us the money to pay Tire America to do the job. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. So members of the Board of Alderpersons, that's what I'm asking you to do, is give approval of this contract of service. Mr. Lawrence has scrutinized it. Mr. Lawrence, any comments?
Yes, sir, and I've reduced those comments to writing. However, we're at a point now where we do need the approval. The state has made its commitment, and what the various parties are doing, they're synchronizing the terms of their individual agreements. We're all at that point now, so it's time to grant the approvals.
Now, I'm Chief Executive Officer, City of Bastrop, Chief Administrative Officer. I administer and implement what it is that you do. This is, you need to give me approval. You need to give me the approval to sign the contract to enter this agreement. And that's Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah, ask you.
Yeah.
As a part of this package, there are actually 2 cooperative endeavor agreements that we would be asking you to authorize the city to enter into, as well as the contract with Tire America. So what you will in effect be doing is granting us authorization to enter into 3 contracts, one for the redevelopment services, and then 2 cooperative endeavor agreements that are going to offer the funding to cover the full cost of the contract with Tire America. So in the motion, I would ask that it grant authorization for 2 cooperative endeavor agreements and the 1 contract with Tire America.
Any questions before the motion?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Olive?
What was the deciding factor with Tire America over the other companies that submitted application?
Ms. King?
I think it was the overall team that had been assembled. They had a very complete package. They had different experts from different fields that were going to come in and do and one of the things that I was most impressed with was that they were going to actually get out in the community and do interviews. Oftentimes, we have community meetings and nobody shows up. And then the comments that I get back from, the feedback from the community is, well, nobody ever asked us anything. So that was one of the aspects of their proposal that I was very impressed with, is that they would be out active in the community.
Additionally, even though they have nationwide credibility, they're from Louisiana, which makes it easier for them to come to see us in Bastrop, and they're familiar with our environment, our culture, and the situations that we're involved in here. A couple of LSU professors and people from all over who make up the team. It'd be,
I've read many papers written by Mr. B. I think that he comes with some good credentials, but I've read some of his writing, and I really admire some of the.
Did you use that when you went to school at Conway? Was that some of the part of the curriculum at Conway?
No, I actually worked with Dr. Robert Pittman. Now, that company also submitted a proposal, which I didn't make any comment about, but I didn't.
Even though you knew them, you
I knew them,
off.
but I
Okay.
didn't. I wanted to get everybody else's feedback, but I actually completed the program at Conway, Arkansas, and that was the Strategic Development Institute. But
Okay. But that's the basic reason, Ms. Olive. They seem to be evident. It's apparent they seem to be more competent and capable than the other applicants who submitted.
Okay.
Mayor.
Did they submit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did they submit a timeline?
yes, they did, and it was a rather long timeline. That it would be probably in the fall before they finish. And one of the statements in there was that often communities rush to do something because you feel like you got to rush out there and do something, and that they would like to, give this a little bit of time to really dig down deep and look at the community very thoroughly. Like I'm saying, this is probably going to be thin. Their proposal was almost as thick as this. So
The other element, and I keep emphasizing this, the other piece of it is we cannot allow someone, and this ties into my other comment, we cannot allow somebody to give us a book. I have a lot of books on my bookshelf on all kinds of issues, health issues and how to do this and how to do that. But if I don't use the information in those books, it doesn't do us any good. And we're determined, and that means that we have to have buy-in from the community to help make this thing work. It's going to be change. There definitely will be change, and the change that will occur will require commitment on the citizens' part. The other piece of it is, and you might talk to my insistence, that in addition to giving us a plan, that they be around to.
yes, that we requested that they do follow-up on this and help us to implement the plan, because we didn't want that report to just go on the shelf and collect dust. So we'll have a follow-up. But we did that somewhat with this other one. We had a gentleman come back and kind of follow our status on it. It does help when you have follow-up meetings and kind of evaluate where you are and what you've accomplished out of the plan. So I don't know how, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to structure this, because that's going to be their call on the actual details of how this thing has worked out. But I was very impressed with the package that they had
Okay.
together.
Ms. Robinson, and then we need to move. Ms. Robinson?
I just wanted to know, that was going to be my question, where they were from, but it's good to know, at least they're aware where we are and some of the localisms that we have.
Yeah, they're from Mandeville,
Okay.
Mandeville, Louisiana.
Mandeville, okay.
Okay, I
Thank you.
appreciate action on this.
Mayor Hawkins,
Mr. Gordon?
upon your request and explanation of contracts, I'd make a motion we give you approval for all three contracts.
Mr. Gordon makes the motion, Mr. Lenore seconds his motion. Is there any other discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Ms. King. Mr. Lawrence, if you'll stay up for the next item, item number 11. This is ordinance number 094189, an ordinance of the mayor and board of all the persons of the city of Bastrop to amend 5-23 of the and to enact 5-24 through 5-40 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Bastrop, Louisiana, to regulate ownership, keeping, and maintenance of dangerous dogs within the city. This is for introduction only. This ordinance is for introduction only. Sometimes this is called a vicious dog ordinance. We've been dealing with the vicious dog situation for many, many years. A lot of folks have referred to it as pit bull law, and our attorney has made it perfectly clear to us that we can't make a law which specifies a particular breed of dogs.
Yes, sir,
And
it
I'll
cannot
segue to
be.
you.
That's true. I mean, it cannot be confined just strictly to a certain breed of dog, but in this case, you have to have an objective definition of what a dangerous dog is that is inclusive of certain characteristics. One thing I wanted to note, Mayor, is we were able to change the ordinance for introduction in light of the request that Mrs. Robinson made.
Okay.
It is a question of, do we introduce the original draft or the one that Mr. McKee assisted me in printing out a moment ago? I have it on the table.
Okay. If we have the one with the addition in it,
Yes, sir, we have it
let's
ready.
do that.
Okay. Thank you. Gordon has the original.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, ladies and gentlemen, instead of packet label number, what is that, 14? 11, instead of packet number 11, we're going to get a copy of the document with the amended language in it.
And just so that you'll note, the amendment is to section 5-29. There is a new subsection that supplements the end, item number 10. So it's 5-29 subsection 10. It deals with the subject of removal and concealment, as mentioned by Mrs. Robinson during earlier today.
Okay, let Ms. Robinson speak to her concern that this, you wanted this piece added because,
I just feel like that if the dogs were removed to protect them from being picked up if they attacked someone or someone else's animals, and that if they did not reveal where they were being kept, that there should be a monetary fine attached to it for every day that they don't reveal where they are.
okay, and we're dealing with the situation of, let's say I have a dog, and my dog jumps the fence or gets out and demolishes your property or attacks a person and whatever. And I immediately take that dog and take it somewhere. And when Mr. Walker and the police department come looking for the dog, I said, well, the dog is no longer here. They said, where is it? And I want to reveal where that dog is. How do we deal with that situation? That was Ms. Robinson's question. And after consulting with Mr. Lawrence, and I asked a question to Mr. Walker, Chief Walker, if somebody knew of a person who had committed a crime and they refused to divulge where that person was that a crime? And Mr. Lawrence, you said that that was called?
Yes, sir, it could be a number of things. It could make you an accessory. It could be obstruction of justice. In that family of crimes, it could fit. Or it could be even conspiracy, depending on your involvement in it.
Because they are aiding and abetting
Yes.
that act. And we feel that a person who has knowledge of where a dog is that is vicious or that we're looking for, and they refuse to tell us, we need to have some effort, some action that we can use to bring them before the court or encourage them to do so. Because of that, you included,
A section to cover that.
which says what? What does it do?
And I can read it. It's not very long. It says, it shall be unlawful and a misdemeanor for the owner of a dangerous dog to remove the dog from its location or to conceal the location of any dangerous dog for the purpose of evading law enforcement or investigative authorities, or for any person to aid and abet in the removal or concealment of a dangerous dog for the purpose of evading law enforcement or investigative authorities.
Okay.
So it's both the owner and anybody else.
And that person can be brought to court and dealt with in a court situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, this is the ordinance, and the process and the requirement is that we introduce this ordinance, that it lay over to next month, and then this gives opportunity for comments to be made to you, and then we can Do we have to have a public hearing on this?
I would advise you to do so because it would carry a criminal penalty.
Okay, let the record show that we will have a public hearing at
We could say 5:45.
5:45 on April 12th. Is that the 12th? April 9th? April 9th. And we will publicize such a public hearing on the vicious dog ordinance, which is ordinance number 094189. This ordinance is being introduced at this time. Let the record show. Okay? All righty. Do you want, got you up there
I
right
can
now?
stay up here for the
Yes,
next
sir.
one, too.
All right, then. Item number 12 is authorization, is asking authorization for the mayor to sign a midlife contract renewal. Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, sir. My understanding is, and from my review of the law, I think that providing exclusive provider status to an ambulance service has a 5-year duration. And if my memory serves me correctly, there was a contract that was done in the year 2000, and there was a renewal done at some point around '05 or '06. And so we're coming up now to a point where we're about to reach the end. And so it is, I take it, a renewal, and there was a request dealing with a performance bond requirement, that we delete that. And I am comfortable with the deletion of the performance bond requirement because of the remaining provisions in the contract that deal with general liability as well as medical malpractice and all of the other insurance coverages that are provided for in that agreement. As long as those coverages remain in effect, and there are a couple of recommendations that I make about identifying the city as a co-insured on those policies, and also an assurance, a written assurance that needs to be added into the agreement that guarantees service to Medicare and Medicaid recipients.
Okay.
That is a provision under state law, and so if we can include those things, I would recommend that this authorization be granted.
Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Lawrence on this issue? If not questions, I'd appreciate a motion to give me authorization to sign this contract.
I'll make
I'll
that
make it.
motion, Mayor.
Mr. Lenore makes the motion. Ms. Robinson, I believe you're about to second it. Ms.
Second it.
Robinson seconds the motion. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose should say no. The ayes have it. Okay, permission to advertise for bids for, thank you, sir, Mr. Lawrence. Permission to advertise for bids for computer hardware through the technology grant. This is the $1.5 million. We have a $1.5 million grant through the Bureau of Justice for technology for the police department, law enforcement. It's one of the things that we were able to acquire. When people say, what are you going to Washington for? This is an example of what we go to Washington for. This is a technology grant which will enable our police department to have better capacity through the use of technology, wireless stuff, being able to better perform. So we need your permission to advertise for bids for this computer hardware.
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Robinson makes the motion. Mr. Gordon, will you second that?
I'll second Ms. Robinson's motion.
If you're any discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Item number 14, permission to advertise for bids for furniture for the radio room and at the Bastrop Police Department. The funds for this furniture, for the purchase of this furniture, are provided by the 911 board. If you look at your telephone bill, what is it, 50 cents? Is it 50 cents per month or something like that? I just see the bottom line on that, but I know that there's a 911 fee on your telephone bill. And the 911 board gets that money, and they buy the equipment for 911, the radios and all the other stuff that goes along with it, pay for the maintenance. I think that they still do signs and all that for new houses. Yes. So there are funds that they are making available to buy furniture for the radio room. The radio room here at the City Hall takes care of the 911 calls for the municipality of Bastrop, and the Sheriff's Department takes care of the 911 calls for the rest of the parish.
Yes.
And cell phones, right?
Yes.
Y'all don't get cell phone calls?
Yes.
You do too?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Mayor
But,
Hawkins.
Ms. Robinson,
This is not going to be real comfortable furniture, is it? So they won't want to get out and do their job.
Well, the radio people don't get out, they sit.
It's just a little humor.
Oh, that was humor, okay. All right. We need a motion then, Ms. Robinson.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second Ms. Robinson's motion.
Mr. Gordon seconds her motion. Any other discussion? Any other humor? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Item number 15, permission to advertise for bids on airport fencing, another grant that we have. With Homeland Security being of primary interest right now, through FAA DOT, we are able to secure funds to provide fencing for the whole airport. We've already installed a electronically controlled gate out there, which was kind of early, but we did it because that's the way the money flowed. And there are also cameras on the grounds, and so that I can monitor the airport with my laptop when I'm away, or we can monitor from here. The airport manager can monitor it as well, and people who need to go in and out of there, if they don't have a code or don't have allowable access, they can't get in. But this is to advertise for bid for the rest of the fencing that will be surrounding the airport. We need your permission to do that.
I make a motion, Mayor, give you permission to do that.
Mr. Lenore makes the motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Olive seconds his motion. Is there any other discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no. Item number 16 is permission to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana DOTD for the donation of reclaimed asphalt pavement. This is some heavy stuff here. Whenever, Mr. McKee, you want to come up? Or does it need explanation?
I would like to know
You want
what
to know?
this is.
Okay, come on, Mr. McKee. You're going to be really interested in this.
I think I know what reclaimed means, but
Okay.
how we're going to do it with asphalt. Figure that when we do it, I guess.
We need a definition. The definition, a simple definition is, when they get ready to repave the highway, in this case it'll be North Washington, the state will be doing it. When they take up the asphalt, you know how they make the little rough ridges and then they take up the asphalt?
They do the cold planing.
They're gonna give us part of it, and we use it to help build the shoulders on the side of the road and fill in places like where the mail carrier cuts a rut in the side of the ditch.
So you're not going to take it and heat it up and redo it?
We don't have that
No,
capacity.
we don't have the capacity. Now, the contractor does take a good portion of it, but we also get part of it.
Oh, okay.
But the part that we get, we use to build up the shoulder road rather than putting dirt down there, which gets wet and gets mushy and all that. But this serves to assist in the shoulder. And we enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement. Help me remember the scenario. Do they haul it to our site, or we pick it up and haul it up? We take it down on
They haul it directly to our site on Jackson Street.
Jackson Street. And then we stockpile it there and use it as we need it. But in order for them to do that, you know, in governments, no government can give anybody anything. There has to be an agreement which specifies the parameters under which the items are received and tracked and all that. So there has to be an agreement signed before the state can do it, and we have to send that to them.
Mayor Hawkins,
Mr. Gordon.
I make a motion to grant permission to enter in this endeavor agreement with the Louisiana State Department of Transportation.
Mr. Gordon makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Hamlin seconds his motion. All in favor should say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hamlin.
may I ask a question
Yes,
about
sir.
that used material?
Yes, sir.
Is that the only place we put it in front of mailboxes? Because I looked at the street program, and I'll be long gone before I get it in my district. And last summer, I showed Public Works 2 spots, and I asked if I could get some of that old asphalt and put in there. And one of them was the section of West Cypress between Pruitt and Martin Luther King North. It's about to be washed away. And the other one was up on Highland. Highland is a dead-end street probably about 100 yards from the intersection of Pruitt and, no, not Pruitt, intersection of Mountain Luther King and Cypress. It runs west, probably about 200 yards at the most. I carried them up there and showed them both spots, and I asked if we could take that stuff and work those two sections. And I never did get any results from it. Can that used stuff be used for projects like that?
That and/or gravel. That and/or gravel, it can be used to fill in shoulder work, and it can be laid down for street, but we prefer to put gravel or asphalt to kind of, not asphalt, what do you call the gravel dirt mixture? Pit run, yeah. Okay. We can do that.
Well, Mr. Mayor, will you ask Public Works to look at those two projects, please?
I'll direct them to do that, Mr. Hammond.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Okay. All righty. Item number 17 is liquor license. Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, I have two applications for liquor license. The first one is for Renewal, Porterhouse Liquor, AG Brothers Incorporated, it's 1851 North Washington. It says for Renewal. I recommend that we renew it. No problems there, anything of that nature.
It's Porterhouse?
Porterhouse Liquor, yes, sir.
And you did say that you haven't had
I
any
have,
major issues,
no, sir, none whatsoever.
and you recommend it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Walker recommends the renewal of the liquor license. Ms. Robinson, I believe that's your district?
Do I have to?
No, ma'am, you don't?
I recommend that we renew it.
Okay, Ms. Robinson makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Hamlin seconds the motion. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it.
Good, sir. And I have a new application for liquor license, Mayor. It's Shamika Wiley, 1902 West Madison Avenue. It's a little store, not sure if that's Bailey, where Pearl Street hits West Madison across the street.
Williams Drive?
Williams, okay. That's where it's located. This lady applied for a license last year, and the council approved it. But due to the size of her store, the state has passed a law, a relatively new law, that requires them to have so many square feet in the building before they will approve a liquor license. And the state would not issue her license. They denied her license. She went back and added more to her store, and she has now applied and received her state license. And she has reapplied to the city for her license. She meets all the qualifications, and I recommend we approve that one also.
Mr. Hamlin, go ahead.
Where is that located?
Williams Drive in West Madison.
The green building on the corner right there by the car wash, when you turn
Right.
immediately off of going north, right on the corner. It was gonna be a grocery store at one time. I remember this building coming up before, but they never sold.
Never sold
That's not Mr.
liquor
Rayford
because she couldn't
Mr.
get her
Rayford
state license.
No, right on the corner of Williams Drive. The green building that was built, not too long ago.
Is that place open now? That's what the sale is?
Shirts and all that. kind of
Right,
stuff.
knickknacks,
Oh, okay.
whatnots,
All
you name it, and
I make a motion.
Mr. Hamlin makes the motion to grant that license. Is there a second?
I second it, Mayor.
Mr. Lenore seconds his motion. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no. That's it, sir?
thank you, sir.
Thank you,
That's
sir. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to give permission and make a motion to expand the agenda. The request to expand the agenda is to accept bids on the CDBG sewer improvement program. And this will be contingent on the state of Louisiana approving this process, approving the bids and letting everything go. As you know, we have been successful each year, I know that I've been here in getting CDBG grants. That's how we've been doing sewer work and street work in many cases, in addition to local funds. Were it not for LCDBG money, we would not have been successful. Robbie Waxman, who's our grants person, and our engineering firms have been able to put packages together to allow us to do these necessary things. So we open bids, but there has to be another step in the process, and that's the approval of the state. But to get ahead of the process, the whole scenario, if you will approve this, accept the bids, that will give us one step ahead, and we won't have to come back and do this later on.
Mayor Hawkins,
Mr. Gordon?
I make a motion to expand the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First, we need to vote, okay.
Expand. I'll second it, Mayor. We need to expand.
Okay, Mr. Gordon makes a motion to expand the agenda. Mr. Lenore seconds his motion to expand the agenda. Any other questions? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Now that we're in the expanded agenda phase of the meeting, I'm asking that you accept the bids. Ms. Amanda or Sandra, who's going to read the bids? We have copies of them? Okay. They will be in packet, on the expanded agenda packet? Okay. Okay, Sandra?
And they recommended the low bidder of trenchless methods of West Monroe. The bid was $436,815 even.
Okay. I'm flipping to my page.
I'm looking for mine, too.
Do we have the other bidders on there? We have the other bidders there?
Yes, sir, it's on the second page.
Okay.
J-Bar was next, J-Bar Corporation of Calhoun. That was $4,092,109.20.
Okay, 400, okay.
The next bidder was Larry Smith Construction, Inc. Theirs was $546,920 even. And Shamco Incorporated, $585,847.50.
Okay. Mr. Fontenot, and is Mr. McKee still here? Help me remember. Trenchless, would you come over here, please? Joe Fontenot is our project manager with Veolia Water, who does our wastewater treatment program. And this may have been before you came, but help me remember our experiences with trenchless methods. Do you remember hearing, did we have some issues with them, Ms. McKee? Remember? We did? Okay. Okay, now, what, didn't I require Denman to have a supervisor on site for that? To
Yes, sir.
monitor for our benefit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. What I want to do is, first we'll accept the bids, but we need to be sure that Denman understands and Trenchless understands that shoddy work is just not going to be accepted. And when I heard that Trenchless got the bid, it really drew my concern, because I can remember, because we had to go back in there. Remember Fairfield, Fairview, all the problems we had over there?
Houses, yes, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Goldman and I are right with you on this. Matter of fact, I had a long talk with Denman Engineering today. They're going to provide an inspector on site. Viola Water's going to have an inspector on site, and I'm going to be on site while they're doing the construction.
Okay. Is part of the package to give us as-built?
Yes, sir.
Joe, don't we need to require that?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And we want tapes
Yes.
after the project is done? Because what we had to happen, they do the slip lining, and sometimes they might use in situ forming, and once they go in and put the new lining in there, they somehow forget to come back in and cut out and make the reconnection.
Sometimes they'll skip some services
Yeah.
or something, and it can cause big problems down the road.
I just, we don't need that to happen, do we?
We need consistency.
Okay, so I'm tasking you to help us with Denman, because I'd like to see a near perfect job as possible, because it causes headaches for us later on, doesn't it?
Oh, exactly. It's
No
just-
bellies, we don't want any
Right.
bellies, because we've been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Lenore?
I was just about to ask the question, Brother, Mr. Attorney, do we necessarily have to accept the low bidder if there's a technical problem with previous bidder?
Well, there are two routes to take. One is you could go through the disqualification process if that's what you chose to do. And then the other one, which I was gonna make the recommendation for this, if the motion is to accept this low bid, it should be subject to special conditions.
Okay,
Where in the event that there's a default, we have remedy.
okay,
So, and because there's gotta be a signed contract on this, which I take has not been signed yet.
yeah,
Therefore, we can insert those
Okay.
conditions in that signed contract.
okay.
But,
Let's,
Mr. Lenoir would take a, sort of a hearing,
Okay.
a disqualification hearing to disqualify a bidder. If you want, and that could be done, but my recommendation
Okay.
is the motion to accept include that provision.
okay.
I have a question.
Ms. Robinson first, please.
If we had a disqualification hearing, how long does that take? And are they present?
Yes, that would be sort of, yes, they would be, or let me put it this way, they would be afforded the opportunity to be present. It would be their choice whether or not to appear, and, the length of it should be, there's no uniform length.
So it's just an oral agreement for their qualifications or whatever? Is that what you're doing when you have this meeting, or the disqualification meeting?
Well, what you're actually doing, you're documenting the reason why you're choosing not to go with the low bid.
What if
In
they,
other words, because, keep this in mind, the law says that you have to go with the low bidder unless you have a reason for not doing so. So the purpose of such a hearing would be basically to document evidentiary-wise why you're not going with them.
We'd have to establish, document and everything to show what they did
Yes.
to disqualify them first.
but when you have this meeting and if they choose not to show up, are they off the list?
They could be.
Okay.
I'd like to take the remedy, Mr. Gordon first, I'm sorry.
Mayor Hawkins, I had some questions. My packet doesn't spell out where these improvement locations are. Could you give some explanation on where these locations would be?
We don't have a map with us right now, but what section is it? Is it C or D? I can't remember.
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Is this the one that Waxman did, something that I recently?
It encompasses the northwest section of town from West Madison north to as far as the country club, and for west is Camille. Now, they're not all the streets. Probably the one street that gets the most attention would be parts of Harrington, Cypress, Pruitt, Welch, and Martin Luther King North, along with Clark and some other streets.
The way that, you might tell the way that this was determined, the areas that they're going to be working on is determined by going through and doing the Cameron and cleaning?
Get Cameron and cleaning, and because of the CDBG grant, they also look at census tracts and
Income levels, number
That's-
of people impacted.
Yes. That's basically in my district,
Yeah.
and I want the best people for them. If we're gonna pay them, I want it done right to start with, so we don't have to go back and redo it. I mean, all over the city, but if it's gonna be in my district,
I think that would, I'm sorry.
I agree with her. We want the job done right. And if we can, put somebody breathing down that throat every day they work. Make sure you want to see the work before they cover it back up or whatever they're doing there. We want them to know that somebody's going to be breathing down in there.
Didn't you say you'll be on site?
You'll be
You
on-
have somebody on site, and Demi's have somebody on
That's
site?
good enough.
That's enough breathing.
Let's go.
We can't get this straight.
Okay, I'm recommending that we take Mr. Lawrence's recommendation and suggestion to amend the contract with the language specifying, what do you call it?
Well, where we would have adequate remedies in the case of a breach, and we would put those provisions in the contract.
Order, please. Okay,
I mean, that would, include things like performance bonds and everything else. So there's an adequate way to be sure that they do it right.
let's do that rather than go through the process of trying to disqualify somebody, which adds more time to it.
It's difficult, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. All right, so do we have a motion to accept the bid? Do we have that?
Thought somebody did, but I make that motion
Ms. Robinson makes the motion.
under the circumstances that everything's added.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hamlin seconds the motion. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Okay, item number 19, it's something that I added to our agenda several years ago. I wanted to give individuals the opportunity who come to the meeting who don't get on our agenda to come forth and make comments to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. This is not a debate time, but if you have something that you want us to know, we give you the opportunity to come and speak to us. So is there a citizen who'd like to make a comment to this Mayor and Board of Alderpersons? If so, come forward and identify yourself, and we'll be glad to listen to you. Is there a citizen who'd like to make a comment? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Before we adjourn, let me ask something in the interest of the candidates who are here. Who will be collecting the questions and deciding the appropriate questions to ask?
The staff here at City Hall usually does that and compile them to keep it there from being duplication, if they can be submitted to the clerk's office. And then we compile them, eliminate, when I say we, meaning the staff, compile them, eliminate duplications. And again, each candidate will be asked the same question, no personal specific questions to any individual. Everybody will give an answer to the same question and go from there.
Okay, and earlier this evening, I'll defer. I see that Reverend Bradford raised his hand.
Okay. Come forward, please.
It's been an ongoing court case with the chief of police. As a citizen, I know I've been reading the paper and watching. I just want to get a clear picture of where we are from collecting a chief of police for the upcoming year for the city of Bastrop.
The court ruled on Friday in favor of the city of Bastrop. The Civil Service Board met on Saturday and opened the results, the test results. There were 4 individuals who made an adequate score on the test in order to be considered for the police chief of the city of Bastrop. They are Curtis Stevenson, who's currently an officer and when I say officer, I'm not talking about rank, in the city of Bastrop. Anthony Evans, who's currently an officer on the police force of the city of Bastrop. Downey Black, who is currently a deputy sheriff with the sheriff's department, formerly a police officer with the city of Bastrop, and a Mr. Wagner. And I don't remember Mr. Wagner's first name. Anybody remember?
Edward, I believe.
Edward Wagner, who was formerly with the Monroe Police Department and Washita Parish Police Department, and currently he is, I think, involved in security in Iraq, somewhere in the Middle East. We have tried to contact all the individuals, but we have not been able to, help me again, Jessica, we have not been able to contact Mr. Wagner. Is that true, Ms. McKee? We have not been able to contact Mr. Wagner. The other individuals were contacted. And starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, I have assembled now the charter in the city of Bastrop. And in the city of Bastrop's form of government is what's called a strong mayor form of government. The mayor is the chief administrative, chief executive officer, and has appointed powers to name the fire chief, police chief, city clerk, city attorney, city auditor, and basically hire individuals who work here. Civil service police and fire civil service folks have to be hired through a series of testing. The charter states that the mayor will recommend a person as police and fire chief and those other officers that I mentioned to the Board of Alderpersons, and the Board of Alderpersons makes the decision, kind of like superintendent of schools. So even though I had a prerogative of looking at those 3 names and saying, okay, this is the person that I recommend, I'm going to take a different track. I've assembled a group of about 7 or 8 people who will sit in on interviews with the candidates starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for about an hour session. And these individuals will interview the candidates and have particular areas, experience, philosophy, general questions that they will ask each one of these folks. And they will rate the answers to these questions. I'm suggesting 1 through 5. And they won't score them. They're not going to compile the scores and see which one is highest. They're going to give those to me. I'm going to review it and then make a recommendation to the Board of Alderpersons.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Harker. And that time span, what kind of time span you looking at before you bring back the all of you?
We haven't established
Haven't come
time. And in having the discussion, Ms. Olive raised the question, and I think she started making a comment. She raised the question, would this Board of Alderpersons and Mayor make that decision, or would it be delayed until after the election and after the new people come into office? And there was a general discussion among the people on council, and Ms. Robinson, among several other members of the Board of Alderpersons, and Chief Walker mentioned the fact that we've been without a fully installed chief of police for over a year now. It's causing some issues in our police department because there is no real stability. And this is not a negative reflection on Mr. Walker, because he's doing, and his job is a gatekeeper. He's holding the place until a permanent place. And he fully stated, along with some of the individuals, that we need to make the decision as soon as possible. So we will be doing it with deliberate speed, taking everything into consideration.
Okay, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Appreciate that. Ms. Oliver, did you have any more comments on that?
Oh, that was going to be my comment in the interest of those who had inquired about the process of naming a chief of police. I would like for the general public to know that I did inquire about the process. Thank you for explaining that. There are some who have indicated that they would desire that that process would be delayed until after the new governing body convenes. However, everyone has a right to his or her opinion.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Y'all want to stay longer, don't you? Y'all just reluctant.
One time, they changed their mind. I'm not gonna make another one.